Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us at the Prominent Speaker online series with Jeffrey Tiong, founder and CEO of PatSnap. My name is Thiru and I'll be the MC this evening. Passion for R&D and a desire to enable companies to innovate smarter and faster, Jeffrey has spent the last 14 years scaling PatSnap from a small startup to a global organization serving over 8,000 customers in more than 50 countries worldwide. The inspiration for PatSnap was sparked during his university internship, where he worked for a medical device startup in the United States. Tasked with conducting patent research on the company's product, he witnessed firsthand how data-driven IP strategy and research can help innovate innovative products that impact lives. He started PatSnap with a simple vision: democratize patent data to enable better and more efficient research that fuels innovation. Since its inception, PatSnap has supported many companies to innovate faster than their competitors, protect and advance their IP positions, increase R&D efficiency, and anticipate opportunities across different industries. He has been awarded the SCS IT Leaders Award in 2019, EY Entrepreneur of the Year Award Singapore in 2018, and was featured on the Peak Power list in 2017. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome founder and CEO of PatSnap, Mr. Jeffrey Tiong.
Thank you. First of all, thank you NLB for providing this platform for me to share. Thank you for the honor and the invitation as well. Yes, so just a brief background about myself, as just now already introduced Thiru, that I started PatSnap straight out of college after graduated from NUS, National University of Singapore. So this year is 14 years in the run, PatSnap. If you ask me when I first started, well, I thought I would be running the business for 14 years, definitely no. But I think when I first started PatSnap, the vision I have for PatSnap is still true. The mission I have for PatSnap is still true. Yeah, so hopefully later I can share a bit more about what we do with PatSnap. And just a brief background, we now have about 800 plus employees across the world, across 10 plus cities around the world. So we first started out from Singapore, and then we branched out to China and London and US, and recently to Japan as well. So we are a VC-backed startup. So that means we have investor along the way, and we have raised a couple rounds of investment, up to date more than 100 million investment. So, and some of the and our investors are global as well. And I think building a startup, I would say when I first started, at least my notion of building a business is very, very different from what I understand now. So later, I will touch more on this. Actually, this is what I internally, PatSnap, we have a tradition, a culture, what we call lifeline. So it's actually a kind of a snapshot of your life since kind of started until now, like the up and down, the up and the low point in your life. And I thought maybe it's interesting to share my high point and my low point, at least since I started PatSnap 14 years ago in 2007, and then up until now. Yes, I started 2007 in right after graduated. Just a bit of background about myself as well. I studied biomedical engineer in NUS. I was the first batch student specialized in biomedical engineer, and then was very fortunate during my uni day. NUS sent me to an overseas entrepreneurship program called NUS Overseas College, where they send entrepreneurial-minded students to go US, for example. And for me, I went to Philadelphia in Philly, just next to New York, for about 1.5 years. And during this program, we are supposed to work in a local startup full-time and study part-time in a local business school. So I went to work in a medical device company in US, while at the same time study part-time in UPenn in the Wharton Business School. I would say this program really changed my life. Because I would say before I went on to this program, this entrepreneurship program, entrepreneurship, these keywords is quite foreign to me, or at least since young, the way maybe how I brought up, I always have a connotation that doing business, like businessmen, always you go out drinking, is it's very different compared to like the way of doing business in Asia, compared to what I know about starting a business, building a product that actually impacts life in US, in around the world now as well. That changed my whole, that opened up my mind, that actually we can build something from nothing, and actually what you build actually impact the world. So that was really, the program totally changed my life trajectory. I would say typical Asian family, back then my choices of career path that was being known to me was be an engineer, doctor, lawyer, accountant, the typical field. I believe you all will know the option. But somehow I chose a path to be an entrepreneur, which I think, looking back the last 14 years, it definitely a lot of up and down. Later, maybe I will touch on some of it. And when it's low, it's damn low. You feel like there's feel like really little light at the end of the tunnel. But somehow we persist, and then we kind of continue growing. But yeah, there are definitely many. It's like a roller coaster, up and down. But looking back, I would say it's quite fulfilling as well. I see that entrepreneurship, or whatever we do actually, is we are figuring our life. We are figuring out what we like, what our passion is, what we like to do, what is our skill set, what is our strength. I always say that with my leadership team as well, that each one of us have a superpower, just like Superman. Like he has superpower, but at the same time, that he also has a kryptonite weakness. So all of us, we all, for sure, we have our superpower and our blind spot, our weakness. So it's really along the way in the life journey to figure out what is it, and try to make best use of it. So I would say this entrepreneurship journey of mine really helped me understand myself better as well. So when I first started PatSnap straight out of college, back then was 2007. I would say the VC environment, the fundraising environment wasn't as robust as now. Now today, if you go out and start a business, there are tons of VC out there, investor out there, government grant available that can give you easily. I would say if you're a good solid team with an idea, I think you can easily raise $500,000 with nowadays funding environment, and even go up to many millions dollar in Southeast Asia. But back then, 2007, I would say this startup scene just started. And luckily back then when I first started, I still got $50,000 Sing dollar, 55 to be exact, back then, from an agency called MDA. Now MDA has merged and become IMDA. From an agency called MDA, 55,000 kind of startup grant. And NUS also gave us an incubator, like a free office space, and $55,000, and that's how I started PatSnap. Of course, 55,000 obviously is not enough to build a product back then. Now it's possible. Now, because all the costs, you can use Amazon, AWS, all this is getting lower. But back then, to do what I wanted to do, it cost millions of dollars. So, but at least 55,000 with a free office space, at least get things going, started. So I remember for the first year, most of the time I just slept in the office and then just work. Yeah, I mean, a lot of other entrepreneurs I know did the same thing. It's just really 100% dedicated to build a product, to build a business. So that was in 2007. And in 2008, obviously, because we still don't have enough money, we just get by, but we don't have enough money to finish building the product. So in 2008, I remember quite clearly as well, that was the first time I went to China. So that was during Olympic, 2008 Beijing Olympic as well. I think as a first time being in China, I think that really blew my mind. Just the sheer size of the Chinese market is just blew my mind. So since then we actually rented an apartment in a city called Suzhou, and then start working out of the living room, and then try to build a product. So for the first few years, actually, because I also try to pitch around, try to get funding, but not getting anywhere. Imagine you are fresh grad, and then you're asking for $500,000, 1 million back then, no track record, never worked before, don't have a product, like, yeah, it's just not going anywhere. So those period was quite down. But somehow I went to China, and then because back then China cost is much lower compared to now. Now actually hiring someone senior in China or a AI developer is much more expensive than in Singapore. Yeah, China is expensive now for certain talent. Yes, so somehow back then we managed to hire a few programmer, developer, and then in the living room in the apartment in China, we built a product. And then in 2000, end of 2009, I came back to Singapore, start selling the product myself. So this is another thing I learned as an entrepreneur. You just at every point of time you have to wear different hat. So I start with trying to raise money, and then build product, be a product manager, and then after that do my own sales, start selling myself. Initially also, I think the first few customer we have, in fact, actually National Library, NLB is one of our first few customer. We also sold to NUS Library, also sold to A-Star. I think Singapore this few institution is my first few customer that kept us fed, got the money, keep going. So in early 2010, with a few customer in Singapore, and then a half-baked product back then. So I will say we managed to raise, very fortunately, we raised our first serious funding. So it's about $1 million Sing dollar. I think it's still a lot of money in today's term. So we raised $1 million. So yeah, but as you can imagine, I think will be just 2 years after graduate, never worked properly, and have $1 million in the bank, and didn't know what I was doing better. So I just spent the money, quickly hire the team, ramp up, and then screw up again. So didn't hire the right person, the product broke down, and then the team didn't do well, and we have to, I think back then we scale up from 10% to 40, 50%. And then we have to lay off half of the company, go back down to 10 plus person again, because things were not working, and I didn't know how to run a company, essentially, how to run a team. So, and I think in that half a year, I spent $500,000. I will say that is back then at least, I will say that is the very expensive MBA lesson I learned. Over the years, I have to tell you, doing business, my MBA lesson is getting more and more expensive. So back then, $500,000 is expensive. I think last 1-2 years, I make $10 million mistake. It's getting more and more expensive. But luckily, every time make mistake, we learn. And I think in life and in general entrepreneurship as well, you just make mistake, continue, go ahead, learn from it. Just don't make the same mistake twice. So the first funding, I mentioned 1 million was the high point, and then make the mistake, and then low point again. And then somehow we persist, and then we managed to launch the product again, relaunch the product again in 2012. So that is kind of some of the early phases I went through. So maybe before I continue with this, maybe I just quick share a bit exactly what PatSnap does. Maybe some of you may be curious, what do we do? So we actually PatSnap, we provide a platform, an AI intelligence platform, to help companies around the world, including actually a research institution like A-Star in Singapore, including a university research lab, including government agency, in helping them to determine their R&D policy. So we have a platform that help them to analyze the whole technology landscape out there, and so that they are more informed, and they know what to do, they know where to invest in their R&D. So let's say I am a electrical vehicle startup. I want to launch a new car, electrical vehicle. Then you come to our platform. If you search for Tesla, you can know the Tesla next 3 to 5 years product roadmap. You will know what they are innovating, what they are inventing, and what they're up to and how their technology work. You can check and see that, hey, Tesla, their battery one per charge can go up to a few hundred kilometer, like, and got supercharged, how the technology works. So on our platform, you can analyze all this. So essentially, if you can imagine, we are like providing a map for people who want to do R&D, to invest in R&D for that. So that is the power of our platform. And basically, that means where there are a lot of R&D investment, those are our market. Because when only a lot of money at stake, then people will use our platform to make sure they invest in the right direction, in the right product, in the right innovation. And in terms of global R&D expenditure, it's about 2 trillion a year. And US is number 1 currently, but based on all different type of statistics, China will definitely surpass US in the years to come. That's why now you can see US China is going through this trade war. It's actually also a kind of a technology competition as well. So that is and unfortunately, even though you can see that R&D expenditure keep increasing every year, but the productivity of R&D is dropping for the last couple of years. It's getting harder. Doesn't mean you throw in a lot of money, you can for sure get new innovation, new product. In fact, it's getting harder. The more money you invest today compared to 40 years ago, you actually get less, because so much competition out there. So many people have already done maybe what you thought is a new innovative idea. And and nowadays to innovate is harder, because unlike the past, maybe Thomas Edison time, a light bulb, is just a few elements in it. Now to come out a new electrical vehicle car, you need to know many different domains, across multidisciplinary. So it's getting harder nowadays to come out a truly new innovative product. And that's why this is what PatSnap do. Through our platform, we can connect the dots. We connect all the different data type, multiple domain, multiple like from science, from chemistry to physics to electrical to computer science, everything, and connecting different user, different group of expert together and come out the new innovation better. So that in a nutshell, what we do. I just quickly share a few examples, very interesting from our clients as well. So NASA have this material for their astronaut to wear. Is quite protective, because you have to operate in a vacuum state outside in the space. So like you can withstand like high pressure, like strong high heat, all these properties. And very interesting, this material, they actually license it to another company in US for firefighter gear. So the exact same material on the cloth, they actually can be used for firefighting, to protect the firefighter during extreme temperature as well. So there is one example of how actually innovation happen nowadays. So it happened in one area, but actually you can use it in another area, and it's getting more and more as well. So this is another example. This company that built this material for selling this, and for selling actually, because some of you have been to selling, you need to be very light, and so in order, especially when you are in competition. So and then you can and it's very waterproof, water resistant. And there's one company that built backpack, and exactly same. They say, hey, I want a backpack that is very light, that is waterproof, resistant, and the exact same material they find it from this selling company, this company who make this selling material, and they apply it to their backpack. So this is another how you cross-pollination innovation. This is another one. I think some of you may have heard or tried the Impossible Burger. In fact, it's getting better and better. It's more and more juicy, the burger. When I first tried, it's still very dry. And the genetic sequence involved in growing the bacteria, in growing the meat burger in the lab, actually the same genetic sequence is exactly the same sequence that involved in other cancer cell treatment. So it's just in our platform, you can find a lot of this similarity. It's just interesting, like one thing being applied in another area, actually you can find a new application in another area potentially, and therefore new innovation. Then our platform using AI or all sort of technique to make all this possible to our customer, to our user. So coming back, yeah, so we that is what PatSnap do in a nutshell. I won't bore you all too much with the technical how we do or and other stuff, but yeah, that is what we do. And then, so yes, coming back to my entrepreneurship journey. So in 2012, after, if you recall, I spent $500,000 and the bank left a few hundred K in the bank. Then I just hunker down, rebuild the product and relaunch the product again in 2012. This time, luckily enough, we managed to build an okay product and we start selling. But and also along the way, we also don't know how to sell actually. Yeah. So back then we start selling in China, but we don't know how to sell in US, in Europe. So fortunately, I met another partner. He got very good, what we call in enterprise world, called inside sales skill, where actually we have about 200 people in US, Canada, and Europe now, where they are inside salesperson, where they will call up, especially now COVID as well. You can't work in office, you can't meet the customer, so you call up the prospect and then do a web demo to them on our software. And if they love it, then we can kind of then they will buy it, and then we open up our subscription for them. Because for our platform is cloud-based, you can access it anywhere as long as you have internet, from the browser, from PC, from mobile phone. So that is kind of how we sell in the rest of the world. And that's also, fortunately, even though we have COVID last year, but even though with COVID, whole PatSnap, we still growing very strongly last year, fortunately. So that is actually how also we figure out our go-to-market strategy. And after we launch and then we start selling, and then there's a dip here, 2013-14, because after we start selling and we start ramping up the team, you need more money again, because you need to hire a lot of salesperson, and to hire salesperson is expensive, because the salesperson, you need to pay their basic, their commission, so it's very expensive. So company is still losing money, burning money, and then we need to go out and need to look for money again, look for funding again. And 2013-14, unfortunately, the funding scene in Singapore is still not yet developed. I actually went around the world. I remember I went to Silicon Valley, I went to UK, London, Germany, even Munich, Berlin, around the world to try to look for money, look for investor. And unfortunately, yeah, couldn't look for investor. No one invests, because imagine if you are investor in Berlin, in Silicon Valley, why will you invest someone you just met for first time out from Singapore, so many miles away, and this guy saying he do something. And back then also our business is not so established, so it's very hard. So unfortunately, I go around the world and then couldn't make money. I couldn't find funding. So fortunately, in 2014, we met an investor in Singapore, Vertex. It's actually a VC arm from Temasek, and they invested in PatSnap. So with that money, then we slowly grow from there as well. And yeah, I actually see someone asking some question. I will answer that. Yeah. So regarding AI, so we use AI to get insight. Where do you get all the big data from, and are there specific industry you focus on? So yes, actually, the type of data we are dealing with is actually one mainly is patent data. So we have a patent, just to share the concept if some of you are not familiar. So if you are inventor, you have a new idea, new invention, you file a patent with the local authority. Let's say in Singapore, you file with Singapore government, in US, you US government. And if the government, the patent authority determine that your idea is truly new and novel, they will give you 20 years of monopoly. So the next 20 years, you own it. If anyone want to copy your idea, they have to pay you. That is in return, in return, the government require that you as an inventor disclose everything you know about this invention and share it with the world, that how you make it, how you make it happen, so that the world can learn from it. So this essentially is a deal between the inventor and the government. So because of this, patent document actually hold very valuable information, and we have the first patent since 18th century, 70, 80, the first patent from US. So on our database now, we have 140, 150 millions from more than 150 countries around the world. We collect all this data and we do a lot of machine learning, mining, and then help our user to map out. So you can actually, there are free resources, you can go out and read out patents, but if you look at a patent before, it's hundreds of pages, it's written by lawyer, it's very hard to understand. If you are not trained legally, you will not know what it's talking about. So we use machine learning AI to analyze all this so that user can, a layman, like I will say, like you and me can understand now. So that is kind of how we get the data. And we don't have specific industry. We cover everything under the sun. So every invention that had happened before in the world and someone has filed patent on it, we will have it on our database. We cover all industry. So to answer that question. The other question is by Amanda. Could you tell us more about the most important skills a global-minded salesperson need to have? Global-minded. I would say there's no, at least on my sales team, I mean, of course, if you consider myself, I am a bit more global. I operate my team around the world. But for our sales team, it's actually quite dedicated and specialized as well. A salesperson, my top salesperson in China, he will not be even selling things possible in Europe. And similar in Europe, if you're a top salesperson, even in US, there is different. Even though they speak the same language, the culture is still different. So so there's no, I won't say no global-minded salesperson, but you have to find really salesperson that not just salesperson in general on the team, like specialized skill set for each of the region, specific to the region, specific to the product, specific to the type of customer you want to target. So to answer that question. The other questions, hi Jeff, I'm not an entrepreneur, I'm just curious. So how do you obtain the knowledge of new product and technology? Say Tesla versus or NASA, how can you trust your source? Do you pay your source? How do you make a profit? So our product, we actually, we just as I mentioned, we collect the data. It's actually publicly available data from the government called patents. And patent is a trusted source. It's actually government approved it. They have patent examiner to examine this data and then publish it. So this is quite validated data source. And then we get it and then process it and for our user. And how we make money is because we do all the groundwork of this. So we charge our user by license, number of license. So for example, if a company have 3 users, they will buy 3 user license from us, and then they can use our software anywhere they want. So based on number of user, they pay us, and then we provide a service to them. The other question, is there any free access for user? Yes, actually online there are actually some free access for this. If you search for patents, actually you have Google patents as well. You have government website. Singapore have patent office, IPOS. US, you have USPTO. You have all these free resource. But of course, the free resource will not be as good as the pay version. They lack of certain feature set and capability. And the other question, so since you knew no investor will believe in you without proven track record, why did you take the strategy of going around the world to look for funding? Well, I mean, being an entrepreneur, you always think anything is possible. So you have a dream. I mean, as a being entrepreneur, you start with a dream. You dream that, you know, this can be done or that is possible. So that's why, I mean, I thought it's possible to raise money around the world back then. Back then, of course, it hit a roadblock, it didn't work. But somehow I would say when you keep trying, if this door doesn't work, this path doesn't work, somehow you can find another way. I think sometimes you just have to keep tweaking, keep adapting for that. The other question, what is the unique selling point of your company? It doesn't gathering specific data of product infringe copyright. So as mentioned, actually the data we collect are public available data, and those are actually from patent office, and their intention is to run everyone to know, to share. So actually is there's no copyright there. It's actually government wanted to share this because there's the whole essence of patent system. That's how it works. Yeah. How do you motivate yourself when you hit low and couldn't see light at the end of tunnel? I usually sometimes I will just do jogging, go for exercise, sweat it out, and then hopefully come out a new way, new idea. Sometimes I will talk to people. Sometimes I will just read a book, watch a TV, watch some Netflix show. Recently, I watched some Korean drama, quite good, to relax myself, to recharge myself. So also I'm actually an introvert person. I'm not sure if you're all familiar with Myers-Briggs character test, MBTI. I am a introvert ISTP. So for introvert person like myself, I actually recharge myself by spending time alone, spending time with nature, going jogging. So this is how I kind of recharge myself. Yeah. The other question. So hi Jeffrey, I'm interested to become entrepreneur myself in the future. I just graduated from Poly and is interested to apply for entrepreneurship program in university. What are some useful tips you can give to start up wanting to innovate and start a new business? Yeah, I will say just to, if truly you really wanted and passionate about it, then just do it. Yeah, just start. I think a lot of people there, I know so many people that talk, I met a few of them as well that they say they always wanted to start, but then sometimes they just cannot take the risk because you may have to out of job for a while, no income, all this. So sometimes you just have the faith and follow your heart. If you think do it, and just if you think really wanted to do it, then just do it. There's this actually this famous phrase by Jeff Bezos. It's called regret minimization framework. You can go online and search Jeff Bezos regret minimization framework. Like if you don't do this, and when you are old one day, 60, 70 years old, will you look back and say, I should have done that. I regret I didn't, try it when I was young, when I don't have much burden, family burden. If you know that you won't regret down the road, then just give it a try. I mean, nothing to lose. In fact, I would say starting a business, it's really, you will learn something. And also my philosophy, I think as long as you are learning, it will lead you to somewhere. I think it will lead, as long as you have a growth mindset, you know that you are learning, then it will lead you to somewhere. It may not be your original destination that you are thinking of, but it will lead you to some other thing. So as long as you know you are learning, you're experiencing new things. So that will be my answer to that. This other question, for pattern is other language like Korean, Japanese, Chinese, the machine language is as good as English. I will say definitely will not be as authentic as original language, but our machine translation are almost as good as you can find out there. So on our platform, you can see Japanese translate to English and vice versa, Chinese to Japanese, vice versa. So yeah, I think at least on our platform, you can kind of get 80% of the essence, the meaning of the pattern. Do you think a 50-year-old is too old to be a technopreneur, entrepreneur? I might, if you ask me, I'm definitely biased. Being an entrepreneur myself, I would say no, anything is possible. I'm not sure there's a movie, I watched that, I forgot the name of the movie, but it's actually talking about McDonald's, how the guy who built a McDonald's business. Back then, I think when he do that business, he was 40, 50 years old. Even, I mean, KFC story, you heard that before, the kernel, how they started. So I will not say age is an issue in becoming becoming an entrepreneur. I don't think age is an issue. So hi Jeff, how do you make sure the data won't be hacked or modified by other party? are you going to use blockchain technology? Yes, we did explore blockchain, but we are not until that level yet. I think what we have data, we definitely have a lot. We have a security team, data security team, that make sure all our data are protected. We have a lot of technology on that. We are using Amazon AWS cloud to protect that as well. So yeah, definitely data privacy, data security is a key thing now. So we do invest in that to make sure our data is protected, especially our customer data as well. For the half-baked product that you first started to sell to NLB and NUS library, how do you know which part of the half-baked product MVP will be good enough for the first buyer? I mean, it's a good question. You never know. You never know. There's a famous saying by a famous entrepreneur, Reid Hoffman, in US. You can go find it out. Reid Hoffman is one of the founders, started LinkedIn.com. And he said that there's a phrase, always launch your product, even though you're ugly baby, just launch it first. Don't make it too smooth, because it's actually, especially nowadays, you launch your product, yes, it's ugly, your baby is ugly. Other people say that, hey, this one doesn't work, that one doesn't work. But sometimes you just have to launch it and get real market feedback. Because if you never launch it, you never know. You never know which part of your product works. You just have to suck it up and kind of put your product out there and let people criticize, and then okay, this one doesn't work, that one doesn't work, let me go quickly fix it. So that one. And also sometimes as an entrepreneur, I think one key ingredient we all need to have is just hustle. Like, yeah, it's a half-baked product. A lot of things doesn't work. Back then, I just hustle because I graduated from NUS. I say, hey, NUS library, please, support your own, alumni, pay some money, buy it. It's getting better, the product. If you invest in it, you just find all sort of ways just to hustle to get your product being bought by someone and get someone to believe in you. Sometimes you just have to, and I will say, I can tell you, I talk to many other entrepreneurs. Sometimes when you truly believe in your vision, your eye got that spark, and people just willing to trust you even though you have nothing. So sometimes you just have to believe in yourself. Yeah. So to get that happen, to make that happen. How did PatSnap get the name and the business idea? So yes. So the PatSnap, the name is actually patterns in a snap. So was actually discussed with my wife, and then we got the name PatSnap in shortened form. And then the business idea, as I shared, because I was in US, so I got this idea back then, internship in a startup then. The next question, having learned your $500,000 mistake in 2010, 11 of ramping up the development team, what were the learning points? How do you hire now? How different? So not just development team, I would say in general. So that $500,000 mistake made me realize really leadership and hiring right people is key. And I will say, even after all this year, hiring is still very, very hard. It's very, very hard. Even today now we have 800-900 people. I am still, maybe half of my time is still involved in hiring, because as PatSnap, we keep growing. We continue need to have good people, more senior people, more experienced people, different type of people. It's really like every day my job essentially is really assessing people. And I will say I still maybe right, unfortunately, maybe half of the time. Hopefully getting better, maybe 60-70%, slightly better, but it's hard. But one thing I will say, at least so far, all these years of learning, hiring people is really, you have to really find someone who share your values, who are similar values, who share and believe in your dream, in your vision, what you want to do. I think that's the most important than skill set, I would say. A lot of skill set can be taught, can be learned, especially nowadays because the world moves so fast. Actually, really, what you know yesterday may not be applicable today or tomorrow. So rather than that, hire for skill set or experience. Of course, experience is still important. But if you just pick two candidates, one with good attitude, good values, someone believe in your dream, and someone have experience but doesn't have all the other criteria I just mentioned, you hands down pick someone who is smart, who believe in your dream, who have the value. Of course, ideally, have the experience and other things as well. Ideal. But when you're hiring, there's no ideal person. You just have to make it work somehow. But hiring for value, hiring for the person values, the belief is more important than skill set, at least in my experience so far. Can you share some tips on how a startup business can effectively penetrate into overseas market, especially China? Yes, I will say China is a very, very different animal, very different. Now that I've been in China for 12, 13 years, I will say in order to win in China, if you want to succeed in China, you have to be in China. You have to be in China. China is very, very competitive. 1.3, 1.2 billion people, and they are all very smart, hungry people. Really smart, hungry people. You are competing with many competitors. So and they are just very hyper competitive. So in order to win the Chinese market, you have to be here. There is also PatSnap philosophy, how we run our business. Our global market, even though we operate globally, but the decision making is the local team to make the decision. So China will make the decision on China market, US, Europe, Southeast Asia, Japan. Because just imagine someone sitting out of Singapore or sitting out of Silicon Valley or New York, an executive in New York who went to China twice a year and want to make decision on China behalf on the team in China on how to fight the market is just not realistic. Because of the competition, things move so fast. It's just when by the time it came to the headquarters, it doesn't work anymore. And that is why in China, so far as I know, any internet company you can think of, Google, Uber, Yahoo, or anyone, no one succeeds in China because you have to be in China in order to compete and win in China. So that I will say in general, the rules, not just China, I find that every other country as well. Even you say Europe, actually Europe also quite regionalized. The Germany is very different market to UK, very different market to France. You have to really have the local people to run the business for you. So that is on that. The other question, what is my most valuable mistake? Most valuable, I think maybe to rephrase it, most painful mistake, most expensive mistake. I have a few, and all involve people, involve leadership, involve hiring the right person. I mentioned 2 years ago, I make a $10 million mistake because I hired the wrong senior leadership team, the wrong leaders to run the business for me, and that impact the whole business significantly, and the culture was bad, upside down, and I have to go in and fix it. So, and always, so far, at least for me, is with people. Of course, sometimes you can make wrong strategic direction, wrong decision on product, but at least for PatSnap, we always somehow related to people, the people side of things, hiring, the value, the culture of the business, etc. How do you make your first serious investor not give up on you after you lost $500,000? Yeah, I don't know what he have in me, but I guess of course, to the credit of the investor, he has the belief and vision that somehow, I mean, he bet on us, continue to bet on us. Secondly, I guess maybe we are just very determined, just have been focusing for that few years, determined to make that happen. So yeah, somehow, and also with the share market vision, we both believe that there is a market for this. So we continue, and then somehow it works. Yeah, that's why I say in entrepreneurship also, yes, you work very hard. You have to be diligent. You have to be all sort of things. But at the same time, you also need luck. I think looking back at my own journey, definitely there is component of luck. There's luck at the right time, right place. I meet the right person, right investor, right partner that help me along the way. So yeah, that is my takeaway. The next question, I'd like to ask, does failures or when the product is not seeing the result when you launch stress you? Of course, it's a lot of stress. Even now today, every day is there's fire to put out. As by definition, if the business is growing, means they are changed. When they are changed, means something will not be working anymore. Means something will be on fire. You have to put out a fire, you have to fix it. This is the definition of growing, of being in a business. Of course, if your business is steady, last year do 50 million, this year do 51 million, next year do 52 million, it's very steady, stable, then yes, maybe nothing new happened. But if let's say the business is growing from 50 million to 80 million to 150 million, 100% sure there are something will be broken. So that means you have to fix it. And just take failure as lesson to learn. Don't take it too personally. Of course, it's easier to say. I do take it sometimes personally as well, but just take it as part of life. If you want to grow, if you want to build a global business, there will be failure, and there will be. Actually, you can check out Jeff Bezos as well. Some of the annual letter, like of course, Amazon is so innovative. They have so many innovation, but actually, he mentioned that out of one successful idea, he failed 1,000, another 999 ideas. So we just have to take in the failures and learn. Yeah. One question. Yeah. Thank you for the feedback. What are my values? What are my hopes for PatSnap? My values. I think looking back, I think it has been a fulfilling journey. One big value of me is growth, curiosity, growth. Because really, being an entrepreneur is stressful because you are dealing with, now I'm in charge of 800-900 people jobs. I am accountable to all my investor, shareholder who invested a lot of money in PatSnap. So I'm accountable and responsible for many things. So there are definitely the pressure is there. Why not seek a salary career instead of jump onto startup in 2007? So I think it's character. My character, I want adventure. And my very naive thinking back then is, hey, I'm young. I don't have any family burden. I don't need to give money to my parents. Luckily, I'm fortunate in that position. So come on, 1-2 years. If I do it, if I fail, then fail lah. 2 years and go back and find a job. I'm sure I should be able to find a job. So back then, just very gung-ho, naive, and then just say I started. But of course, never know I do it for 14 years by now. Now that you are trying to grow, how do you prioritize all your list of things to do first? Improve product, hiring senior people, improve culture. Yes, this is tough. Always in my mind, from 1 minute to another minute, I'm making decisions. Like so many things, I'm juggling multiple balls, but I don't know how to say. Maybe just experience or the entrepreneur gut instinct that you roughly kind of know that is the thing you should do. Just do it. And then, if you're not sure, I always will talk to my team, talk to my investor, and then, hey, I got ABC. I think we should do A. What do you think? And then we talk, discuss. Eventually, as an entrepreneur CEO, you need to make the final call. The stress actually is in you have to make the final call. No one can make the decision for you, and you have to be accountable to your decision. Any books on entrepreneur that you used to build PatSnap? Not specifically but I did read a few books. I think read out Jeff Bezos, anything about Jeff Bezos, how he started. I always like to read biography. I read Elon Musk biography as well, very interesting. Warren Buffett biography as well. Even there's a book called Hard Thing About Hard Things. It's by Ben Horowitz. Hard Thing About Hard Things. I think that book described very detailed, vivid, how hard is it being entrepreneur. It's Hard Thing About Hard Things, I would recommend. And many other books, 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel, many other books that I think is very interesting to read, to learn. So what are some tips you can give to startup that want to pitch their idea to potential investor? I think first of all, you have to know your staff. And you have to be, I think one thing, to be very, very passionate about your staff. For me, if I want to invest, I imagine if I want to invest in someone, I will look into that person, that entrepreneur eye, and I want to see, not really spark, but I want to see that this person truly believe in what he does, and he will take whatever it takes to make it happen. That determination. Yeah. Did your introverted self hinder your entrepreneur journey? I will say yes and no. Actually, I study a lot of entrepreneurs. Many entrepreneurs are actually introverted as well. It's more and more common. Of course, because I'm introvert, I need to learn the skill set of being extroverted. That means I need to go public speaking, I need to learn to rally my team, give motivational talk, speech, which is not my default mode. I have to do it. And after usually I go out like today, after I share with you all like on a very high mode, share with you all with high energy. After this, I need to go back, sit on and rest and just do my own thing to recharge because I'm not usually at this mode. This is not me. So just have to adjust back. So I just say I really say that my experience, there's many flavor of entrepreneur. Any style can work. Any style can work really. Yes, I think it's about time is about up. I think really a lot of questions. I try to answer as fast as possible to hopefully it's useful to you all. With that, thank you. I will wrap up my part. Thank you everyone. Hopefully today's session is useful.